On April 17, 1987, every TV in the country turned black for exactly 3 minutes. No one ever explained why. But for millions of people, it wasn't just silence. It was something else. Something they swore they heard, and some never forgot. Picture it, a Friday night in America. Families were gathered in front of their living room sets. The top sitcoms of the 80s, late-night news, game shows, millions of glowing screens filling living rooms with familiar laughter and chatter. Then, in an instant, every channel cut out. Not to static, not to color bars, just black. At first, people thought it was local. Power surge, maybe. Neighbors rushed outside to compare, only to see their whole street staring into dead screens. Entire neighborhoods, cities, even states. Phone lines jammed with frantic calls to cable companies. Radio hosts took in panicked voices live on air. And then came the part nobody can explain. Some say they heard whispers through the silence. Some swore the black wasn't really black, that shapes moved in the dark. And a few say they heard their names called. It lasted only 3 minutes. 3 minutes that changed nothing officially. Yet when the broadcasts returned, nobody in power addressed it. No headlines, no explanations. Just silence, as if nothing happened. But I've been digging, and the more I uncover, eyewitness accounts, archive tapes, recordings that shouldn't exist, the more certain I am of one thing. Those 3 minutes weren't an accident. They were a message. And maybe even now, that signal never really stopped. What I'm about to tell you comes from dozens of sources. Some public, some hidden for decades. A mother who was a child during the blackout. A retired broadcast engineer who swears he saw patterns in the static. A tape collector who found something buried in a flea market box labeled simply, April 1987. You'll hear their voices through mine. You'll see what they saw. And you'll understand why some believe those 3 minutes weren't just a glitch, but an intrusion. The story begins in New York City, where the first blackout reports hit the news stations. From there, it spread west wave after wave, until Los Angeles fell dark. Every station, every channel. Not even emergency broadcasts cut through. It was complete silence. But the real nightmare wasn't the blackout itself. It was what people claimed they heard inside it. And that's where the journey takes us next. Into the voices, the conspiracies, the footage no one was meant to see. And at the end, one final clue that connects it all. By the time we're done, you might wish you'd never heard this story. Because the signal is still out there. And if you've ever fallen asleep with the TV on, maybe you've already heard it yourself. Reports began around 9:17 p.m. Eastern Time. A popular sitcom had just cut to commercial break when the screen went dark. Families thought it was a power issue, but the lights stayed on. Radios still worked. Only the televisions dead silent, black. In Chicago, a late-night news anchor froze mid-sentence. His face flickered, then vanished into blackness. In Los Angeles, children watching cartoons stared in confusion as the images drained away. Across the nation, millions of sets synchronized in silence. Phone operators described chaos. Parents demanded to know what was happening. Some operators claimed they heard faint echoes on the line, as if multiple voices whispered behind the callers. But no one was more disturbed than the people who swore the blackout wasn't silent. A man in Detroit said he heard a woman repeating his childhood nickname through the dead air. A family in Texas swore they heard the voice of their grandfather, who had died a decade earlier. And children across the country reported hearing songs, lullabies, just beneath the hum of the static. When the broadcasts returned, there was no acknowledgement. No scrolling apology, no mention from anchors, just shows resuming where they left off. But those 3 minutes left a scar. That scar became deeper when people realized something strange. Not everyone remembered it the same way. Some swore it lasted longer, 5, even 10 minutes. Others said it ended instantly, as if no time passed at all. And a very small number claimed it never ended for them. Decades later, survivors still speak about the blackout with unease. One woman, who was 10 years old at the time, described it to me like this. I remember sitting on the floor watching cartoons. Suddenly the screen went black. I thought the TV broke. But then I heard my name, clear as day. My full name. A man's voice I didn't know. He whispered it 3 times. My mother swears the TV was silent, but I swear to you, I heard it. Another witness, a teenager at the time, claims he saw something inside the black screen. Not reflections, not static, but eyes. Dozens of faint, glowing eyes. The most chilling account came from a woman in Ohio who had just lost her brother in a car accident. During the blackout, she said she heard his voice calling for her. She screamed and ran from the room. Her parents dismissed it as grief. But she insists to this day, it wasn't in my head. The voice came from the TV. He was begging me to listen. These stories sound like hallucinations, grief responses, tricks of the mind. And yet, they echo one another. Whispers, names, the dead speaking. If this was a technical glitch, why did so many people across the country describe the same impossible things? And why, when I searched deeper, did I find recordings that prove at least part of it was real? I first heard about the tapes through an online forum. A collector claimed he owned a VHS labeled April 1987. He described it as 3 minutes of black, followed by something he couldn't explain. The post vanished within hours. Months later, in a dusty flea market outside Pennsylvania, I found a stack of VHS cassettes. Among them, one labeled in fading marker, April 87. I bought it for $2. When I played it back, most of it was ordinary, a game show, commercials, sitcom footage. Then, at exactly 9:17 p.m., the screen cut to black. For 3 minutes, nothing. Except, when I turned up the volume, I realized the silence wasn't silence. There was a hum, low and steady, with faint sounds beneath it. I boosted the audio. That's when I heard them, voices. Not random noise, but whispers. A man's voice repeating numbers. A woman humming. And then a child's laugh. When I slowed the tape frame by frame, I discovered something else. Shapes in the blackness. As if the pixels were bending, forming outlines of faces pressing against the screen. I'll never forget the moment one of them opened its mouth. The sound matched perfectly with the laugh on the tape. Officially, the 1987 blackout never happened. There are no news articles, no government statements, nothing in the record. The only references are in scattered diaries, local forums, and whispered testimonies. But conspiracy theorists have built entire archives of speculation. Some blame Soviet jamming, pointing to Cold War tensions. They argue it was a test of nationwide disruption, an enemy flexing their ability to silence American media. Others point to the government itself. Experiments in subliminal messaging had already been exposed. Could this blackout have been an attempt at mass hypnosis? But the darkest theory is neither political nor military. It suggests that the blackout wasn't caused by us or by them. It was a transmission, something not human, a signal forced into our airwaves, a moment when every television became a window and every home an audience. When I compared eyewitness accounts, one phrase kept appearing. It felt like something was looking back. I had the tape digitized. Frame by frame, pixel by pixel, I examined it. First, it was just black noise. But when I mapped the pixels by brightness, patterns emerged. Faces. Distorted, blurred, but undeniably faces. Mouths opening and closing. Eyes watching. When I showed the frames to a visual expert, he refused to continue. He said the patterns weren't random. They were deliberate, arranged as if by design. And then came the most chilling detail. When the shapes were enhanced and aligned side by side, they formed a sequence, like a film strip. Played quickly, it looked like hundreds of faces screaming silently from behind the glass of the screen. But that wasn't the worst part. One of the faces looked exactly like me. I tracked down a man who claimed the blackout stole his brother. He told me, "We were watching wrestling, me and Danny. He was sitting close to the TV. When it went black, I laughed, thought it was funny. But Danny didn't laugh. He touched the screen like he was drawn to it. His hands sank into the black. I swear it did. I ran to pull him back, but there was nothing to pull. He was gone. My parents told me he ran away, but I know what I saw. The TV took him. Doctors said trauma warped his memory. Police dismissed him. But when he told me this, his eyes filled with tears. 30 years later, he still sleeps with no television in the house. No screens at all. And when I asked him if he ever hears Danny, he said, "Sometimes at night when the power flickers, I hear him calling. From the walls. From the dark." I took the audio from the tape to a sound engineer. He enhanced the frequencies, cleaned the hum. What we found wasn't random. The whispers formed words. Repeated, layered, impossible to deny. Over and over, 3 words. "We see you." The engineer paled when he heard it. He asked me to leave and refused to return my calls. But I kept a copy. When I listened again alone, I realized something new. It wasn't just "we see you." It was my name, whispered once, right before the blackout ended. In 2003, before YouTube, a clip surfaced on early forums. It was labeled "Full Blackout Footage." The clip showed a blank screen for 3 minutes. But near the end, images began to flicker. Thousands of eyes, opening all at once. A low voice whispering coordinates. The clip was deleted within hours. The account vanished, but some mirrored it. And those who watched swore their computers glitched. Their webcams flickered. Their phones rang with dead air. I searched for years. Finally, I found a mirrored file on an old drive. And when I played it, I saw what they described. Eyes opening in unison. Then darkness. But when the screen returned, it wasn't random. It was my own street, my own house, from above. I wish I could say this is just research, just storytelling. But I can't. Because now, every time I close my eyes, I see that blackout. I hear the whispers growing louder. I feel the pull of the screen. And I know whatever that signal was, it marked me. The tape was never random. It was meant for me. And if you've listened this far, maybe it was meant for you too. I reached out to networks, to the FCC, to anyone who might have answers. Most ignored me. Some denied anything happened. But one retired technician left me a voicemail. He said only this: "Don't dig too deep. The signal's still active. Every night, every channel. You just have to look." When I called back, the number was disconnected. I don't know if he was warning me or daring me. So now I leave you with this. Go to your old TV. Turn it on. Switch to the dead channel. Listen closely. If you hear the whispers, you'll know the truth. That night in 1987 never ended. The signal never stopped. And once you've heard it, you've already been chosen.